G'day folks, it's Dean with OnlineToolReviews.com. Tonight we're doing an unboxing video of the Hitachi 2-stroke petrol blower. It's model 24EAS. I'm not a big fan of unboxing videos myself. I tend to think they're somewhat pointless. So what I'm going to try and do is something a little different. We'll take a look what's in the box. Then I'll go through a few, I guess, issues that I've read on certain reviews on Amazon.com and other websites to do with this particular model. This one's purchased in Australia, but there are a very similar or the same model has been sold in the US and probably other countries as well for some years now. So we'll unbox this, we'll have a look what we've got, and I'll just go over those major issues to see if this particular model may suffer those, and if so, just a general guide of what to look for if you happen to buy this model. So when you get it, you can check these things out, and I'll give you a few tips and just some information on how to get the best use out of the tool and how to avoid those certain problems, and just some general maintenance and how to look after the tool so it does give you a good service life. Well, we'll have a look what's in the box, see what we've got to work with. Start with the main tube that attaches directly to the blower unit. The instruction guide, handling instructions. Really should read these. If you're not familiar with two-stroke garden tools or any two-stroke engine tools, a very good idea to read that and follow the instructions to the letter almost. It's a good starting point. There are some things that probably should, you can tinker with two-stroke engines if you've worked with them and used them a lot before, which can extend their service life. But as a general guide, if you're new to two-stroke engines, two-stroke garden tools, similar to this, then definitely read the manual and go by that first and foremost. Next we've got the main power unit, the motor and blower with the impeller. And there's not a whole lot more, there's only got one extra piece, being the nozzle cone. You can see it's a rounded cone. I tend to like the flattened ones a little more than the round ones. These are somewhat non-directional. But nonetheless, we'll see how it goes in a later video. And lastly, we've just got a general nut and screwdriver tool, which is pretty common with garden tools. And that's pretty much it out of the box. Just some quick basics on the power unit itself. You notice it's orange in colour. Some of the US models mostly green, I believe. But it's virtually the same model. Hitachi branding. Hitachi also, I believe, purchased the Tanaka company a few years ago, or acquired it, maybe the other way around. I'm pretty sure Hitachi's the owner, or the new owner of the Tanaka brand. Anyone that's used outdoor garden tools, hedge trimmers, chainsaws, pole trimmers, blowers, any of that kind of stuff, they'll know Tanaka. I hope I'm saying that right. Tanaka is a top brand. I do have a Tanaka hedge trimmer, which is it's unbeatable. Kicks over first start all the time. So this model, orange as I mentioned. Other models will be green in the States and other places around the world, no doubt. It's a 23.9 cc engine. Fairly standard. Most brands like Stihl and most other brands you'll get anywhere from 24 to 26 cc as a small size blower engine. Uses an NGK spark plug as opposed to a Champion, which are pretty common in the States, but NGK, one of my favourite spark plug brands. I use them in my car, my boat, virtually anywhere I can. They've always proven reliable, for me at least. Weighs 3.9 kilograms dry weight, so it's got a bit of weight in it, but not overly excessive. It's comfortable to use and hold. A virtually 0.52 litre or 520ml gas tank. It's a good size. It's pretty average for these size tools. The unit has a Walbro brand air element and a Walbro carburetor. Very common brand in garden tools, Walbro, very reliable, so that's a good sign. Has the Hitachi PureFire engine. I've not used before myself. It's claimed to be a cleaner running engine, so there's less emissions. I think I read also possibly more power. I'm not 100% sure, I'll have to check on that, but a new engine to me anyway, so I won't make any further comment until I've used that and tested that, which I'll reveal in another video to come. I've got a variable throttle control here and an on-off kill switch at the top. Now, I did read earlier models may have had a momentary kill switch, which was sort of spring-loaded, so you'd hold it down until the engine ceased and then release it, but this one's a hard on and a hard stop position. Now, I did mention before that some users had problems with that nut under there coming loose. Definitely check it. It just requires removal of this guard here, 3 Phillips head screws. Take that off, check that nut. Just by the look of it, it doesn't look like it has any kind of spring washer on there, but it may be a nylon fitted nut. So if that's the case, it will hopefully hold under use, but something you want to check before you start the engine for the first time, and then at a fairly regular interval. It's really simple to access, so it's just those 3 screws, so it's only going to take you best part of a few minutes to undo that, take it off, just check that nut's secure. If you're getting excessive vibration or noise while using it, that'd be the first thing to check. Now, the manual for this particular version of the Hitachi blower recommends 25 or up to 50 to 1 oil to fuel ratio. I think the green version in the US stated 50 to 1, but this one actually states 25 to 50 to 1. Now, when you first, a common mistake or error, I think that not most people, some people do, is that when they first get a brand new tool like this, they'll mix 50 to 1 fuel ratio, which is fine. There's not a problem in doing that, but they won't run the motor in. The motor needs to be running at quarter or maximum half throttle for a certain period of time, and that just helps the engine components to seat themselves, find that to sort of settle into their operating positions. If you're using this for the first time, don't go full throttle on the throttle control, because running this full throttle, particularly even when it's cold, even if you've used it for hours, let it warm up a little. If it's your first time using it, let it run in 10 minutes or so, even just at quarter throttle or even idle. I always recommend putting 25 to 1 oil to gas, well that's rather gas to oil, 25 parts gas to 1 part oil ratio, because you've just got more oil in that first few tanks. It's going to cause more smoke, more emissions obviously, but you're getting twice the lubrication essentially from that ratio. So really important the first few times, particularly if, and even when you run full throttle, it's always better to have a bit more oil than not in general. Not always the case, but in general. It just causes a bit more smoke, but you'll have better engine lubrication. It may result in your plug sort of fouling up a little quicker than usual. You've got more oil going through there. It can gum up, it can foul up much quicker when you've got more oil, but it's a pretty cheap part to replace, and much cheaper than your engine components if they're oil starved or starved of lubrication. When that happens, you run into all kinds of engine problems, which require a lot more investment to fix. Now, another common problem reported is that people use the tool, it'll last a few hours, maybe a couple of sessions. Sometimes the second session they use it, they've reported that it just won't start, or other issues, or it's not sucking fuel through this primer bulb. Most cases it's because the primer bulb has either come off from under here. There's a third, you probably can't see that, but there's a third fuel tube at the back here which runs from the carburetor back into the bulb. That one in some cases is reported coming off completely, and in a few isolated cases where that line wasn't even connected at the factory. So definitely, if you buy this tool, when you get it home, make sure all your fuel connections are solid and tight, because that has been the cause of some issues in the past with users. Now, the recommended minimum fuel quality or rating, I guess, is 89 octane. In Australia, most commonly we have 91 octane. I know in the States you can get 85 octane, I believe now, possibly even 80. But some of those fuels contain ethanol. Now, ethanol's pretty big in the States as far as I know, or it's much more common. In Australia, a few years ago, they tried to make it pretty commonplace, but I think people saw the disadvantages of ethanol fuel. It has much less energy to begin with, and the cost we were saving 4 cents a litre on ethanol fuel versus, and that was 10% ethanol, or up to 10% ethanol versus regular unleaded 91 RON fuel. And people weren't getting 4% more mileage. It's kind of almost phased out. You can still get it in Australia, but it's mostly regular unleaded. I would recommend avoiding fuels with ethanol. They have been known to cause problems with fuel lines in certain parts, and possibly some of those issues I mentioned before with these fuel lines. Some users were getting degraded or split fuel lines, or lines with holes in them. Whether or not the ethanol, if they were using ethanol, was causing that, it's up for debate, but it's a possibility. Always where possible, try and avoid ethanol fuels, in my opinion. They're claimed to be better for the environment. They probably are, but they're not going to. Your tools, your power tools and your engines don't really like it compared to 91 RON or 95 or something like that. But 91 RON or 90, whatever you can get that doesn't have ethanol is the way to go, in my opinion. Now, when you start a 2-stroke engine, a lot of people will, if their engine isn't kicking over, they'll yank on the starter rope, almost countless times. I've seen some reports where, some guy supposedly yanked on it 200 times before it started. If it's not kicking over within 5 or 6 kicks on a cold engine, you've got a problem. Particularly, you shouldn't have to crank this more than 10 times, say for example, on a cold engine for something to happen. If you are finding that constantly, you've most likely got an issue that, no matter how many times you pull on this thereafter, it's probably not going to do anything. So save the wear on the rope, the recoil mechanism, the starter, all that kind of stuff. Save it, try and find the problem, fix that, and you should find it'll start easier. Now the other thing is, when you grab the yoke and pull on it, don't pull it from this position here. You can see where it's fully recoiled. Pull it out until you feel a bit of resistance, and then just a sort of a quick sharp pull up on it there. I won't do it now because I haven't got fuel in this yet, but yeah, always to save the wear on the mechanisms inside and the springs and the recoil, always pull it out till you feel that first bit of resistance, and then a sort of quick sharp pull. And you don't really have to yank on this really hard. Just firm and steady. If you're yanking on this really hard isn't going to make the tool start easier, really, in my experience. Just a nice firm pull, look after the tool and it'll look after you, basically. If it's not starting, you've got a problem. It's either your fuel, if it's been sitting in there for a while, it loses its octane rating, or it loses its sort of energy, I guess. So always use fresh fuel where possible. I recommend the use of a fuel stabilizer if you have large quantities of fuel, something like Fuel Doctor available in Australia, or Stabil, or another type of fuel conditioner that'll preserve the octane in your fuel. So you've either got a fuel problem, an air problem if you're not getting air into the carburetor, so check your air filter, or whatever you're using in your two-stroke tool as an air filter. Make sure that's not clogged or blocked, or it doesn't have any air leaks, essentially. Or the other common problem is the spark plug. Either the spark's not firing, the spark plug's damaged, or you're not getting, you can pull the spark plug out and test the spark plug by grounding it as you pull on the rope, and you should see a spark. So if your tool doesn't start easily, it's generally one of those problems, and most of them are almost free to fix. Usually the check of the air filter isn't very costly, and if you need to replace it, it's pretty cheap. Fresh fuel, cheap. Spark plugs, generally cheap. If you've done all that and you can't get it to work, if it's new, certainly take it to someone who knows what they're doing, and you may have some kind of problem with the motor itself, and that's obviously going to be much more of a major job. But do the things you can do first to fix the problem, because it's most likely going to be one of those issues, either spark, air or fuel. And if you can do those yourself, you'll solve 90-95% of the issues straight off without any major investment in getting it fixed or repaired, or sending it back for warranty. Just using the tool to loosen these two screws a little. And we'll see that line up these two nipples. There's one on each side. We've got one here and one here. Just get the tube in. Start with, line those up so they slide in. They'll hit the bottom, and then we just want to rotate the tube so those plastic nipples on the tube end up in these retainers here. So we just rotate that round. It won't go any further, and then just tighten your screws up here to re-secure that, and you'll be good to go. There we have it, the Hitachi RB24EA S model we've got here. Hopefully you found that a little more interesting and a bit more informative than your run-of-the-mill unboxing videos you might find on YouTube. I'm quite excited to give this tool a go tomorrow, I would say. Got a bit of outdoor work to do to clean up around the house, mostly dirt and some leaves and debris, so definitely give it a go and get some more film, and we'll do a bit more of a proper review, I guess you'd call it, of how well it performs and general use features as well. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with anyone you know that might be interested. Subscribe to our channel, it would really help. We're only new on YouTube, so we may not even have any subscribers yet, but hopefully you'll be the first if you do. And definitely like the video as well, as I mentioned. If you'd like to see more of these type of videos, your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks very much, and we'll catch you on the next video.